I'm your friend, Dr. Charles Apoki, and I'm in Benin. I want to speak at the Faith Arena. What a great privilege. Great men have spoken there. I remember the first time I spoke there as a deacon, and I remember when I used to watch the Archbishop speak from that same podium, and today one is privileged as a spiritual son to also speak on that podium, from that podium tomorrow morning. I want to do a review of some of the things I'm going to say there. There will be 3 services, and I'm going to speak in the 3 services. I want to look at marriage because it is Father's Day. Father's Day and modern day marriages. In fact, as I get older, I'm starting to realize some of the challenges that men face in marriage. And they face with their wives, they face with their children, and they face with themselves. In Ephesians chapter 5 verse 21, to Ephesians chapter 6 from verse 1 to verse 3, Ephesians chapter 5 from verse 21, it says, submit yourselves unto one another. Women, submit yourselves unto your own husband. Women, as the church submits unto Christ. Men, love your wives as Christ loved the church. By the time you read through that passage and come to children, honor your father and your mother, that it may be well with you, that your days may be long. I found out that the key issues that hold marriages together, hold families together, build families are not the things we emphasize. Somebody once called, they were doing a program in our church, and then they brought me out and told my wife to go and hide somewhere in our school compound, because the branch church I attend is in my school compound. And they asked me, when last did you kiss your wife? And I told her my wife does not like kissing. And so it has stayed that I kissed my wife. It's been a long time. But the next time they asked me, what's the size of your wife's shoe? I said, I don't know. And I know she does not know. I only know that she doesn't like high shoes. What's your wife's favorite colors? I said, I don't know the particular one, but I know she doesn't like bright colors. What's your wife's favorite food? I said, she cooks the meals. I don't know her favorite food. But we've been married for 37 years, and we've had a very, very good marriage. So I want to look at marriages that are not usual, marriages that are not too normal, but they have been there. So sustaining marriages that are not too usual, marriages that are not too normal. I don't wear the same clothes with my wife. That is, she wears the same color, I wear the same color. No, I don't do that. She wears her own and I wear my own. And one of the things we have found out is that we've preached men into a tight corner. Preached men into a tight corner. What's the size of your wife's brassiere? What am I doing with the size of my wife's brassiere? She buys her brassiere. Why must I know the size of my wife's brassiere? How does that sustain marriage? I know people who kiss every day, people who know the colors of their wife's brassiere, their favorite colors, and all that. And their marriages didn't last long. So, what are the things? I asked my wife when I was 60, and she was 58, and we had been married for quite some time, maybe 34 years then. I asked her, what has kept this marriage going? And the first word she said was responsibility. If you analyze love, the kind of love of God, you find out that God is a responsible God. What is responsibility? Responsibility is having a duty to deal with something, having a duty to be in charge of a person or a thing, a state of being accountable. So, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. He loved, that's why he gave. So, responsibility, if love does not prompt responsibility, then it is selfish. And so, the obvious manifestation, the tangible manifestation of love is responsibility. Nobody cares or feels how much you care, but they want to see how much you care. So God so loved, he is Jehovah El Shaddai. It's not a nickname, it is a providing God. He provides for us. He meets our needs. So responsibility is the key to sustaining marriage, or one of the keys to sustaining marriage. Marriages that are not too usual, marriages that are not too normal. I grew up in a dysfunctional family. My wife also grew up in a family that was dysfunctional. We come from backgrounds that are not the best, but we became Christians. We married as unbelievers, but this marriage has been strong and it has been on. So what are the keys? Number one, responsibility to God. I owe God a duty. I'm responsible to God in my own capacity as a human being. There are things I will not do. There are things I will not do to my wife. There are things I do for her because I love God, because I'm responsible. I'm a responsible child of God. She does not need to merit them. She does not need to earn them. I do them because I love God. The Bible says, husbands, love your wives. It is my responsibility to love my wife because I chose her. That's why I don't complain about my wife. If I narrate any incidents, any differences between us, it's just to make you learn to know that there's nothing special about me, nothing special about her. We're just ordinary people that have known an extraordinary God. So responsibility towards God. The next thing is responsibility to society. As a pastor, as a preacher, I'm responsible to my church. There are things I must do there that will prove that I am a child of God and I'm a responsible husband. I'm a responsible father. Behoves me to demonstrate examples, to show examples to the younger ones there in the church. If I misbehave, I will distract a lot of people. Number two, I have a responsibility to demonstrate to my neighbors that this is how a Christian should behave. This is how a Christian should live. So responsibility. I have responsibility to myself. I need to remain healthy. I need to look attractive. I need to maximize my life, maximize my potentials. I need to earn a reputation, create a brand. When I went to do masters at 56, and somebody introduced me as a man of God in the class, introduced me as a great man of God, it behoved me to make 10 A's. I needed to prove the man right. I didn't need to behave like a goat when I've been introduced as a lion. So responsibility. Responsibility to my wife. There are things I cannot do because of my wife. When I was going to Kenya, she said, when you use the restroom, please check the toilet seat and make sure it is clean. When you finish taking your bath, make sure the bathroom is clean. When you finish, when you get up from the bed, please dress the bed. Don't leave them the way you leave them in the house here. When I finished, I checked the bed, I dressed the bed, I checked the toilet seat, I cleaned it, I swept the bathroom. And the bishop, who happened to be classmates to Ayo Ejafo in America when they went to Bible school, said, I have seen a different Nigerian. So if I misbehave as a husband, it will bring shame to my wife. I have a responsibility to make sure when we were younger, my children never lacked. I never owed house rent. I never owed school fees. I've tried as much as possible not to ask for money from people to take care of my basic needs. Responsibility to my wife. Responsibility to my wife prevents me from committing adultery. Whether she deprives me of sex, whether she gives me sex or not, whether I quarrel with her because I quarrel a lot, I'm not too normal. Whether she quarrels with me, she's not too normal. On her 60th birthday, I warned her. I said that, look, most times we will have big occasions coming. You will bring something that will cause quarrel. The quarrel is not between two of us. So please, don't quarrel today. But we still quarreled. And then she dressed up. Just before we went to the ceremony, she said I should come and embrace her. Let's take picture. So I embraced her, and somebody was taking our pictures, and she whispered to me, say, people no go no say we don't quarrel before we take this picture. That people will not know we quarreled before we took this picture. And lo and behold, we posted it on Facebook. People will say, lovely couple, beautiful couple, model couple. We quarreled. But you see, I owe her a responsibility to celebrate her 60th birthday. I owe her a responsibility to make her happy. I owe her a responsibility to hold her and to take the picture with her. So responsibility. I'm building a very beautiful school in her community because they refuse to train her as a female. That if they trained her, she will become the money will be wasted because she will use it to benefit her husband. So I'm building a world-class school in her community to prove that if she were to be a male in that place, she will have done something. It's the most beautiful house built by any indigene in that community. It's a responsibility. So I have responsibility for my future. For my future, in Genesis chapter 30, verse 29, Jacob asked Laban, when I came here, your sheep were few. Now they have multiplied. When will I now do something for my household? You see, I preached around this country. I've been going around for the past 20-something years. I preached in different places. But I knew I owe my family a duty to be able to train them, to be able to give them the best, to make my children compete globally. I also made sure I built businesses, built institutions that even if I don't want to preach, my family will not lack. I built institutions that even if my grandchildren are looking for somewhere to work in future, there is a place for them to work. I built institutions with my wife that in such a way that I don't need to work to eat, or my wife does not need to work to eat. Well, it's my personal duty. It's called Chris Agery's principle. Chris Agery was a management consultant in America. He propounded a theory that for a normal psychologically mature adult, a time comes when his personal goals come in conflict with organizational goals. You're working somewhere, you're a policeman, you're a soldier, you're a pastor, you're an itinerant preacher like me. They will invite you. Tomorrow I'm going to preach in 3 services. What do I have to show for my own children? What do I have to show to my grandchildren? So any money that came into my hand, then I gave to my wife. And my wife had the responsibility of managing the resources, labeling the resources, plowing the resources, multiplying the resources, investing the resources, so that we could be where we are today. If I was a failure, nobody would bring me here. So you owe your children a responsibility. The Bible says a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, a legacy, not only a good name, but a legacy. So, responsibility. The next thing is respect. I respect my wife. She doesn't like flies, so I close the windows. If I use her restroom in her room, I make sure it's clean. She will not want to come and see remnants in her toilet seat. I respect her. If I want to talk to her, I talk to her with respect. Even if she doesn't talk to me with respect all the time, but I respect her. In my household, she said that if you don't take your bath, don't eat. So I take my bath before I eat dinner. So I respect her. I respect her productivity. There was a time she bought a generator. They cheated her with 400,000. I knew she wanted to surprise me with it. So I did not shout. I did not say anything. I accepted. She doesn't operate with Harvard School of Business or Lagos School of Business, but she's producing results. So I respect her. I respect her because she has made us millionaires, and she's a millionaire that I am dating. So I respect her. I respect her opinion, but not every suggestion she brings that I take. I filter them, but I respect her by listening to her. I respect her by not fighting with her. We quarrel, but I respect her. I try not to talk to her in a rude way in the presence of my workers. I respect her. If I don't respect her, she can bring me down. If you don't respect a woman, she will disgrace you, no matter your status. So I respect her. You see, respect means due regard for the feelings and wishes and the rights of others. I respect her feelings. I went to preach somewhere, and I took a picture with a female. My guest speaker was my host was a female, and I sat straight because I know she will see the picture. And the woman leaned towards me. Then when she saw the picture, so why did I take a picture with a woman like that? I said, can't you see that I'm straight? And she was the one leaning towards me. You know, I have had girls walking in my house that she brings. I respect myself. And I respect her. If I go and do nonsense with any of those girls, I would disrespect my wife. I respect her such that I will not go and fight with somebody in the streets. I respect her. So I respect her rights. I recently asked her, what do you admire most about me? She said that I've given her the liberty to be herself. In those days, we used to quarrel a lot, fight a lot for the first 5 years out of the 37 years. And I discovered that my wife has so much energy. And that energy I was trying to stifle with, I'm the head of the house. Woman, be submissive unto your own husbands. And I found out that the best way to make her submissive to me is to give her liberty to become herself, work. So she likes to build, she likes to work, she likes to count money, she likes to do. And by the time she finishes working, she gets tired. When I give her a suggestion, she doesn't take. I respect her right not to take. But eventually, she will come and tell me, what you said was true. That's the way I've lived. So, I respect my wife. And recently, some time ago, some bishops went for a synod. And I've shared it with you before. They said that if your wife controls you, stand up. And all the canons and the venerables stood up. One short canon with a 5G wife. 3G, 4G, 5G wife. But they didn't stand up. An archbishop asked her, Canon, you mean to say your wife does not control you? I said she does. So then why didn't you stand up? So I wanted to stand up. She told me to sit down. Whether you like it or not, there are many things they regulate about our lives, and so we try as much as possible to respect them so that we can live long. As a man, if you want to live long, learn to respect their opinion, their desires. They determine what you eat. Sometimes, like as I wanted to come here, I had a big agbada to wear. I asked her, should I wear that? She said, no, wear a simple cloth. So I wore simple cloth. I respect her. So I brushed my mouth because she doesn't like mouth odor. I respect her. So I shave my beard so that my beard don't prick her neck when I embrace her. I respect her. I perfume myself to bed because she doesn't like odor so that I'm a sweet smelling sacrifice. I respect her. If I want to go to Jerusalem and she says no, I respect her. I respect her. If she says she's tired, I respect her. This idea of I'm the head, I'm the head, I'm the head, I'm the head. If you don't take time, you'll be frustrated in marriage. So what do? I do the married but single. There are things that where we have areas of commonality and interaction and productivity. I allow her to do her stuff outside my area. Then where we have commonality, we come together. I don't wear the same clothes with my wife. She goes to ceremonies, I don't go to ceremonies. She also respects me. She knows I don't like stress. Recently I sat with her. She was talking million. What we need here, million. She was stressing me, and she knows. She said, that's why I don't like telling you about the expenses we need to do. I respect her. I was building the school somewhere else, and I know that she needed money now, so I suspended the other project there. And when I came from preaching recently, I gave her all the money they gave to me. And I gave her money yesterday. I gave her money again to continue her work. Oh, she wants this. When I come back, I'll give you money. I respect her. I cannot. She's not my baby. She's another person's child, even though I'm married to her. The law sees her as an entity different from me. I respect her body. So I will not pounce on her without her consent. So, before you can respect somebody, you have to accept the person. There are differences between my wife and I. There are things she does not like about me. She knows that I'm not usual. She knows that I'm not too formal. She knows that I'm not a normal, gentle person. She has accepted me like that. She knows that when I get up, I will not dress the bed. So she dresses the bed. She arranges my clothes and all that. She has accepted me. I've also accepted that she's not a preacher like me. She's not an orator like me. I was in the governor's house to speak, and the wife, I spoke twice. The wife said that you can't bring my wife to speak. I told them she won't come. But they came. They said, Madam, the first lady wants you to come and speak. I said, no. Say it's my husband that is a preacher, that is called to preach. Me, I'm called to make money and to build the houses. So I didn't force her to go. I respect her. So I've accepted her the way she is. I've accepted her and her looks. One lady one day would dress somewhere, and she said, why did your wife dress like that? That's my wife, it's not your wife. But after some time, the one that was sophisticated was asking me to help her pay $250,000 as part of her daughter's school fees in one university the daughter was. But my wife will never do that. If I came from Kano, where I went to preach in Assemblies of God Church to Assemblies of God Men, my wife had paid my son's school fees in Europe. I didn't need to be there. I've accepted her, that she likes her liberty. She likes to do things on her own. She likes to be in charge of some things. I've accepted her. I've accepted her that when I ask her for money, she will first say no. I will go away, then she will eventually give me the money. I've accepted her. So, acceptance. A child should accept the father the way the father is. Don't wish you had another father. My father had one blind eye. My father was a refuse collector, but he was my father. My father was a poor man. We were going to toilet in the bush. My father. Today, those other rich fathers, I am in the same platforms with their children, and my children are in the same platforms with their grandchildren. But I accepted my father. That's why I could obey him. That's why I could take his instructions. I accepted my mother. My mother was not an easy woman. I accepted her as my mother. So acceptance comes before respect. Why most people don't respect their husbands is that they don't accept them. They wish they were different people. And you hardly change adults. You want to destroy the man to be another person. No. If your husband is a stammerer, he's a stammerer. Accept him. If he says, if you ask what is your name, Reverend, a doctor, complete it for him. Apoki. Accept him. I have a friend who snores like a generator. When he's snoring, the windows in the other room where I sleep will be snoring. The wife has accepted him. All this running around from one place to the other is because of lack of acceptance. So the next thing is, when acceptance is there, admiration. I admire my wife. I admire her. I think she admires me, but she doesn't show it. But she admires me. So, and she defends me. So, one of the things I want to look at is that if there is no acceptance and there is no respect, there will be rebellion. I must accept my daughter-in-law. My son is married to a European, as I told you. Her culture is different from mine. Our culture is different from hers. I've accepted her and her culture. I've accepted her the way she lives. She doesn't use lipstick. She doesn't put earring. She is simple. She's plain, but she's beautiful. I've accepted her. And I think she has accepted us too. It is this lack of acceptance that breeds cultural clashes, that makes interracial and intertribal marriages not to last long. Then the next thing is relationship. Another arrow. So we'll be talking about arrow. The next arrow is relationship. What is the relationship? Relationship is the way two or more people connect. How do I connect with you as my spouse? I'm supposed to be head over you. I'm supposed to, Sarah called Abraham Lord. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. When my wife sees me, she should be at peace. Her challenges, her difficulties should be rectified. Her strength should be restored when she sees me. When I hold her and she puts her head on my chest, she makes like this. So it makes her to lie down in green pastures. When a woman is satisfied, she does not wander. It's only goods that have not eaten well that go from place to place. My wife does not complain to people. She does not go out to visit other women because I've provided a comfortable environment, a comfortable house for her. He leads me beside the still waters for his name's sake. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever, and anoints my head with oil. When you give authority and a sense of belonging and ownership, your wife will work her soul out for you and live her life for you. How do I connect with my in-laws? In-laws, my mother-in-law, she has become my mother by law, by force. So my mother-in-law had a young man as her only son. I started playing the role of a son for her. One day when I bought a refrigerator with her money and we were carrying the refrigerator into her house, she said, if person no born boy, if you can't get better in-law, no be in-law, now be pikin, now be son. She lived with me for how many years? About 4 or 5 years. And I refused to let her go. They waited until I went to Australia before they took her out of my house, because they knew that I would not let her go. She calls me Apoki. I cut her fingernails when I will catheterize her. When she defecated at the time, the great-grandchildren refused to clean her. I cleaned her up. My wife was not around. So I took her as my mother, and my wife took my parents as her own mother. My mother didn't have a boy, so she became, a girl, so she became the girl by being a daughter-in-law, not contention. Once you accept that, then the next thing is, how do I connect with you, with my father as a child? I am an ambassador of my father. When I say the word Apoki, is my grandfather's name. I'm trying to make you know that name, pronounce it well, and that one of the descendants of Apoki has come. We have a street named after Apoki in Otogutu. We have a waterside, Apoki waterside. I saw myself an ambassador of that family to carry the name from obscurity to the limelight. I didn't go to school for myself. I went to school for my father to compensate for his illiteracy, to compensate for his poverty, to compensate for his lack. So I went to school. Everything I did, I had my father in my background, in the back of my mind. And I never wanted to ever bring shame to his name. So, I am a bank. As a child, the way you honor your father is not only by bowing down. You take care of him. You take care of your parents. Some of you children going to be wishing happy Father's Day. When did you see your father last? When did you sit down to discuss with him last? In those days, I removed gray hair from my mother's hair. We will cook at about, bring to my parents on Christmas Day. They were so proud of us. When my father was dying on the deathbed, when they tell him, doctor is coming, your son is coming, he would open his eyes. But I couldn't come on time before he died. But he was proud of me as his son. And it gives me joy. Sometimes I just wish that they would wake up for just 2 minutes, 3 minutes and see me. See what that his troublesome son has become. As children, we are supposed to be banks of the projections of our fathers, banks of the principles of our father, banks of the practices of our father, banks of the processes our fathers have laid down, banks of the philosophies of our father before we start talking about his property. If you don't know the principles, the philosophies, the practices, the processes through which your father earned these properties, they will sell them. Tragically, most of our children don't know anything